Welcome back, students. I hope all of you are safe and healthy. Today we will start with new chapter of science, chapter 7, the living and the non-living. In this chapter we will study about the similarities in living and non-living things, different characteristics of living things which distinguish them from the non-living things, and about the organisms which are on the borderline of living and non-living things. Now, as you all know, that a great variety of things are present on earth. Everything present on earth can be divided into two groups: living things and non-living things. Now, living things share some similarities with non-living things. These include mass, shape, and occupying space. Or you can say that all living and non-living things are made up of matter. Both living organisms and non-living things are made up of basic structural units. Cells form the basic structural and functional units of living things, while molecules form the basic structural units of non-living things. Students, living things exhibit certain characteristic features which make them different from non-living things. These include cellular organization, growth, feeding, breathing, sensitivity, excretion, locomotion, and reproduction. Now let us study these features of living things one by one. So as I told you, students, that cells are the basic structural and functional units of living things. Or you can say that cells are the building blocks of life. You know, they are so small that they can be seen only with the help of a microscope. Some living organisms are made up of only one cell. These are called unicellular organisms, like amoeba, paramecium, bacteria, etc. They are so tiny that we cannot see them with the naked eyes, while organisms made up of more than one cell are called multicellular organisms, like plants, animals, and human beings. In multicellular organisms, cells are not alike. They are of different shapes, sizes, and even perform different functions. Now, structural organization in living things. Students, as I told you, multicellular organisms are made up of more than one cell, or you can say that they are made up of millions of cells. So these cells organized into specialized groups and perform specific functions. Such groups of cells which are similar and perform a particular function is called a tissue. Now, several tissues which work together to perform a particular function is called an organ. And a group of organs which coordinate with each other to perform a particular function is called an organ system. For example, organs like mouth, stomach, esophagus, liver, and intestine all together form an organ system, and it is called the digestive system. Thus, you can say that cells are organized into tissues which form organs and which in turn are organized into organ systems. You know, this organization is an essential characteristic of our living beings, while the non-living world is not organized in this way. Now, the next characteristic is living things move. Students, you must have observed that animals move from one place to another in search of food. This movement of whole body from one place to another is called locomotion. You know, plants also show movement, though they do not move from one place to another. In plants, the stem grows towards light and roots grows towards ground. Movement of leaves and opening and closing of flowers are also a type of movement in plants. Now next is living things need food. So as you all know that all living things require food to survive and grow. Based on the manner of obtaining food, the living organisms can be categorized as autotrophs and heterotrophs. Now, as you all know, that only green plants have the ability to produce food from raw materials by the process of photosynthesis. So, they are called autotrophs, while animals and non-green plants which cannot prepare their food and thus depend directly or indirectly on green plants for their food are called heterotrophs. Now next is living things respire. Students, respiration is a key feature of all living organisms. It takes place in two stages. External respiration, which is generally referred as breathing, and internal respiration. In breathing, oxygen is taken in and carbon dioxide is given out. The mechanism of breathing is different in different animals. For example, animals and humans breathe through lungs. Insects breathe through air holes or spiracles which are present on their bodies. Fish breathe through gills, whereas plants breathe through the pores which are present on the surface of their leaves called stomata. While in internal respiration, the breakdown of food within the cells with the help of oxygen to release carbon dioxide, water, and energy takes place. This energy is used to carry out various life processes. Now next is living things excrete. Students, all living organisms excrete. The process of eliminating waste from the body is called excretion. Now, most of the animals excrete solid waste materials in the form of feces, liquid waste materials in the form of sweat and urine, and gaseous waste in the form of carbon dioxide. In green plants, the excretion of gases and excess water occurs through stomata, which is present on their leaves. Plants also produce some other waste products, and these waste products are either stored in their different parts like leaves, bark, and fruits, or are removed as various secretions like gums, resins, and latex. Now, next is living things grow. Students, all living things grow on their own. Growth is actually an increase in size of the body. In plants, a tiny seed grows into a baby plant, and after some time, it grows into a big plant or a tree. You know, plants continue to grow throughout their life. While in animals, a small puppy grows into a dog. Human beings grows from babies to adults. A chick comes out of an egg and grows into a hen. Animals grow up to a certain age only. They stop growing after they have attained a certain size and shape. Now, living things have a definite lifespan. Students, lifespan is the period during which an organism completes its life cycle. You know, all living things follow a cycle of growth and development in which an organism takes birth, grows into an adult, grows old, and dies. This is a natural process and unique to all living organisms. Lifespan is different for different organism. Now next is living things reproduce. Students, all living things reproduce. That is why they are capable of creating more organisms of their own kind. And this process is called reproduction. You know, different organisms have different means of reproduction. Some animals reproduce by laying eggs, while others reproduce by giving birth to young ones. For example, human beings give birth to babies. A cat gives birth to kitten. Some baby animals like birds, frogs, snakes, and mosquitoes hatch from eggs, while plants reproduce through seeds that can germinate into new plant. In some plants, a part of the plant is also used to grow a new plant. For example, bryophyllum reproduces through leaves. Now next is living things respond to stimuli. Students, what happens if you touch a hot pan? The hot pan triggers an instant reaction to you and you will immediately withdraw your hand, isn't it? Here, contact with the hot pan is the stimulus and the quick withdrawal of your hand is the response. You know, every living thing responds in some way or the other to stimuli. For example, when we touch the leaves of mimosa plant, which we also called touch me not plant, it quickly folds its leaves. Here, touching is the stimulus and folding of leaves is the response. So, stimulus is any change in the surrounding of an organism to which it responds. All living things respond to stimuli like temperature, touch, light, sound, and smell by moving towards it or away from it. And this ability to respond to any external change is called sensitivity. Now, let us study about the organisms which are between living and non-living things. Viruses are microorganisms which have the characteristics of both living and non-living things. They are just like any other non-living thing outside the body of a living thing. They can grow and multiply only inside the living things. Viruses are often considered the connecting link between living and the non-living things. They even cause diseases in animals and plants. Now, with the wrapping of this chapter, I hope all of you are able to understand the characteristics of living things and also the difference between living and non-living things.